Now let's get into the actual fighting of the Rhodesian Bush War. The Rhodesian Bush War was essentially a proxy war. A proxy war which involved over 15 different countries. There were three opposing forces in this war. The Rhodesian Army, backed by the US, Great Britain, South Africa, and Portugal. A guerrilla force known by Zimbabwe Africa's People's Union, or ZAPU, that would eventually be led by Joshua Nkomo. And the Zimbabwe African National Union, led by Robert Mugabe. The guerrilla forces would be backed primarily by Russia and China. Because of the landscape of Rhodesia, this would be a very unconventional war. The guerrillas would focus more on ambush, sabotage, leaving mines behind, and sporadic firing on soldiers, while the Rhodesian army would rely heavily on air support and parachute troops who on average would see more than 40 jumps throughout the war. In 1970, white Europeans only made up 7.3% of the population in Rhodesia. So by the end of the war, black Africans made up 80% of the Rhodesian army. There were many war crimes committed on both sides, and the average civilian were normally the ones caught in the crossfire. Ian Smith, realizing he was losing the propaganda war, started to lock his black citizens into gated communities called keeps. And these keeps functioned like prisons or concentration camps. It was also believed that in desperation, the Rhodesian army used chemical warfare, placing things like insecticide and typhoid fever into food and beverages. The estimated deaths of that chemical warfare was at least 800. It is estimated that 11,000 soldiers on all sides were killed, and at least 20,000 civilians would be caught in the crossfire. Fighting would not slow down until 1979, when the Lancaster Agreement would be signed. This allowed the British government to come in and take control over Zimbabwe/Rhodesia until they can have their first majority rule elections.